All right. Time to really get into something I think we all want to know more about. How our bodies actually burn fat. I'm sure we've all had that moment, like looking in the mirror and wishing certain problem areas would just magically, like, disappear, right? Well, today we're going deep on all that science behind it. And for this one, we're using this great YouTube video from the Institute of Human Anatomy. They call it How Your Body Really Burns Fat. Can We Control It? I mean, the title alone got me super curious.
Yeah, it's a pretty big question, isn't it? And a good place to start is, well, with the different types of fat we actually have in our bodies. There's the subcutaneous fat, which is right under our skin. And then there's visceral fat, the kind that's around our organs.
So is one, like, worse than the other? Like, if I'm trying to get in shape, should I be worried about one over the other?
That's where it gets interesting. Because even though both types are burned in pretty similar ways, visceral fat is the one that's been linked to, well, some serious health problems like heart disease and diabetes.
Okay, so that's definitely motivation to keep things in check. But let's get to the how. Like, how does our body actually go about burning this fat?
Well, imagine, like, your fat cells are tiny fuel tanks. They're full of energy in the form of triglycerides. And when you exercise, your body releases hormones. And these act like messengers. They tell those fat cells to open up and release that stored energy.
It's like our body is sending out a signal flare, like, hey, need some fuel over here.
Exactly. And that stored energy, which is in the form of fatty acids, it travels through the bloodstream to our muscles. And that's where it's used to power our workouts.
Okay, this is what I've always wondered. Can we, like, target fat loss from specific areas? Like, if I want to get rid of belly fat, can I just do a ton of crunches?
I wish it were that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, you can't spot reduced fat. Crunches will definitely make your abs stronger. But they won't, like, magically melt the fat away that's covering them up.
Yeah, makes sense, I guess. It would be too easy, wouldn't it? But I have noticed, like, when I work out certain areas more, they do look more toned, even if I haven't lost a ton of weight.
That's because building muscle helps shape your body. And it helps those muscles be more visible as you lose fat overall. It's like you're sculpting the clay underneath, even if you can't control exactly where the top layer comes off first.
Oh, that's a really good way to put it. So even though I can't target belly fat specifically, building core strength will still help in the long run, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of burning fat effectively, we got to talk about this whole fat burning zone thing.
Yeah, I've heard about that. So is there really, like, some ideal exercise intensity where my body just torches fat?
Well, it's more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
You see, there are an intensity level where your body uses mostly fat for fuel, but it's not always the most effective for losing fat overall.
Wait, really? How's that possible?
Okay, let's say you're going for a walk. You're burning 70% fat out of 100 calories, so that's 70 calories from fat. But now imagine you're doing a really intense workout, like HIIT, and you burn 30% fat out of 500 calories burned.
Okay, hold on. Let me do the math here. So that's 150 calories from fat. So even though the percentage is lower, I'm burning more fat overall during a more intense workout.
You got it. And this is really important. The total calories you burn is what really matters for losing fat.
So finding a workout I enjoy and that I can really push myself in, that's more important than trying to stay in this fat burning zone.
Exactly. And that's why we see so many different types of athletes who are lean and fit, even though they train in totally different ways. Think about marathon runners versus weightlifters,
Yeah.
They both burn fat effectively, but they do it differently.
So what's the takeaway for me and everyone else listening? Like, what should we do with this information?
Well, it comes down to this. Find activities you enjoy and ones you can keep doing over time, whether it's dancing, swimming, hiking, or hitting the gym. If you hate running, don't force yourself to do it. Just because you think it's the best for burning fat. Just find something you love and be consistent. The results will follow.
I love that. You got to enjoy the journey, right? And it seems like understanding all this science behind fat burning, it can really help us make better choices about how we work out. But there's got to be more to it, right? Like, what about the whole hormonal aspect of fat burning?
Oh, you're right. Hormones are hugely in how our bodies use fat. And we've already talked about a couple of them, like adrenaline and cortisol, which are released when we exercise. And they help kickstart that fat burning process.
Right. Those are like our body's get up and go signals. But what about other hormones that might be affecting things like behind the scenes?
Well, there's one that's absolutely key. Insulin.
Okay, I've heard of insulin, but I mostly think of it with like blood sugar and diabetes. How does it affect fat burning?
Well, you can think of insulin like the key master for your cells. Its main job is to get glucose, the sugar we get from food, into our cells, so it can be used for energy.
So it's like a traffic cop directing the glucose where to go.
Exactly. But here's the thing. When we have a lot of insulin in our blood, our bodies will burn glucose for energy first, and then any extra energy gets stored as fat.
Hold on,
There.
so too much insulin could actually be making it harder to burn fat.
Yeah, that's right. It's all about balance. We need insulin to function. But keeping those levels in check can really help with fat burning.
Okay, now I'm really seeing how it all fits together, and this is where diet comes in, right? Because certain foods will make insulin spike more than others.
You got it. Refined carbs and sugary foods tend to trigger bigger insulin releases, compared to foods that are higher in protein, fiber, and healthy fats.
So choosing foods that keep my blood sugar stable can actually help my body burn more fat.
Exactly. It all goes back to creating the right environment inside our bodies for burning fat. It's not just about exercise. It's also about the choices we make that affect our metabolism and hormones.
Wow, I'm feeling a lot more empowered now. Knowing all this, it's amazing how much control we actually have over our own bodies.
It really is. And remember, even small changes to our diet, exercise, and how much we sleep, those can make a big difference for our health and well-being.
This has been so interesting so far. We've busted some myths, learned about how fat is actually burned, and gotten into the complicated world of hormones and how they affect our metabolism.
Yeah, we're just getting started. There's so much more to learn about the amazing ways our bodies work.
I can't wait to keep going. But we'll have to do that in part 2. When we come back, we'll get even deeper into fat burning. And we'll be talking about the role of stress, sleep, and other things that can affect our results. So stay tuned. Okay, so we're back and ready to get even deeper into this whole fat burning thing. Before the break, we were talking about all these hormones. And I know there's one in particular that's been getting a lot of attention lately. Cortisol, the stress hormone, right?
Cortisol is definitely linked to stress.
Mm-hmm.
And while it gets a bad rap sometimes, it's actually really important in how our body naturally responds to stress.
Okay, so is it our friend or foe when it comes to burning fat?
Well, kind of both, actually. You see, when you have
Mhm.
short bursts of cortisol, like when you're working out or suddenly faced with a challenge, it can actually help make fat available for energy.
Yeah.
It's like your body's way of giving you quick fuel in those fight or flight moments.
Huh, interesting. So a little stress could actually be good for burning fat.
Exactly. But here's where it gets tricky. When we're stressed out all the time, meaning those cortisol levels stay high for a long time, it can actually do the opposite.
What? Really? How does that work?
Well, when cortisol is constantly high, it can lead to more fat storage, especially around the belly. It also messes with our blood sugar, making us crave all those sugary, fatty foods, where it just makes things worse.
So chronic stress can actually sabotage our fat burning efforts.
It's true. But the good news is, we can control how we manage stress. And when we do things to reduce stress, we can help keep those cortisol levels in check.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some things we can do to manage stress? I'm sure everyone listening wants to know.
Well, there's tons of great options. Exercise is a fantastic stress reliever, and so are things like yoga, meditation, and spending time in nature. Even simple things like taking a few deep breaths, listening to calming music, or connecting with loved ones can make a huge difference.
So it's all about finding what works for you and making it a part of your regular routine.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be complicated either. Even just 10 or 15 minutes of dedicated me time each day can do wonders for your stress levels.
I think we can all try to do that. Okay, so we've talked about exercise, diet, and managing stress. Are there any other things we do in our everyday lives that can affect how well our body burns fat?
One that people often forget about is sleep.
Oh yeah, sleep. I know, I feel so much better when I'm well rested. But how does sleep actually affect fat burning?
Well, when we don't get enough sleep, our hormones get all messed up. Levels of ghrelin, the hormone that makes us hungry, go up, and levels of leptin, the hormone that tells us we're full, go down.
Oh man, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. No wonder I always want to eat junk food when I haven't slept enough.
Exactly. And not only do we get more cravings, but lack of sleep also messes up our metabolism. So it's harder for our bodies to burn fat effectively.
So getting enough sleep is just as important as exercise and diet when it comes to fat loss.
Absolutely. It's all part of that holistic approach we were talking about.
Okay, starting to see a pattern here. It's not about finding some magic solution or quick fix. It's about having a whole lifestyle that helps our bodies burn fat naturally.
You got it. It's about finding a balance that works for you and making choices you can stick with for the long haul.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But how can we use this information in our everyday lives? Like, what are some specific things we can actually DO to make a difference?
One of the best things is to start paying attention to what your body is telling you. Are you always hungry? Tired? Stressed out? These are all signs that something might be off.
So it's about being more aware of how we're feeling and using that to make better choices.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a huge change all at once. Start by making small changes gradually. Maybe you try adding more veggies to your dinner or taking a 15-minute walk at lunch.
What about things like supplements and all those fad diets? Are those worth trying?
Honestly, it's always best to focus on getting your nutrition from real, whole foods. And while some supplements can be helpful, it's important to talk to your doctor before you start taking anything new. As for fad diets, they might promise quick results, but they're usually not something you can stick with long term.
Good advice. It's so easy to get caught up in the hype, but it sounds like focusing on the basics is what really matters in the end.
You said it. It's about building a foundation of healthy habits that you can keep adding to over time.
I'm feeling so motivated right now. But I think it's time for another quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about some more specific strategies for really maximizing our fat burning potential. Stay tuned.
Okay, we're back and I'm ready for more. I'm sure our listeners are thinking, all right, this is all great, but what can I actually DO to burn more fat?
Well, we haven't talked about protein yet.
Ooh, protein. I know it's good for building muscle, but what about burning fat?
So protein actually has a higher thermic effect than carbs or fat, meaning your body actually burns more calories just digesting and processing it. Really? So just by eating protein, I'm giving my metabolism a little boost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Plus, it keeps you feeling full longer, which can help with those snack cravings.
That's awesome. So how much protein should we aim for?
Well, it depends on a few things, like your individual needs and how active you are. But in general, a good rule of thumb is to aim for at least zero point 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight.
Got it. Okay, now let's talk about exercise. We know it's important to find activities we enjoy, but are there any specific types of workouts that are better for burning fat?
HIIT is a great option. High-intensity interval training is where you alternate between short bursts of really intense exercise and then periods of rest or lower intensity.
Yeah, I've heard HIIT can really burn a ton of calories. What makes it so effective?
Well, not only do you burn a lot of calories during the workout itself, but it keeps your metabolism revved up for hours afterwards, so you keep burning calories even after you're done.
Wow, bonus burn. Anything else we should try?
Strength training is another great way to boost your metabolism. When you build muscle, it increases your resting metabolic rate, which means you burn more calories even at rest.
So even when I'm not working out, having more muscle means I'm still burning calories?
That's right. And it's not just about lifting heavy weights. Things like bodyweight exercises, resistance bands, even yoga can help build strength.
This is making so much sense. It's not about finding some quick fix or magic pill. It's about having a healthy lifestyle that includes movement, good food, and managing stress.
You got it. Small, consistent changes over time. That's the key.
I love that. And it's easy to get focused on the number on the scale or how our clothes fit, but it's important to remember that being healthy is about more than just how we look.
Absolutely. It's about how we feel, how much energy we have, and how we live our lives. Losing fat can be a good thing that comes from a healthy lifestyle, but it shouldn't be the only thing we focus on.
That's a good reminder. It's about making choices that make us feel good overall, both physically and mentally.
Exactly. And remember, everybody's journey is different. What works for one person might not work for another. It's all about finding what feels good for you and what your body needs.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap things up. This has been such an amazing deep dive into the science of fat burning. And we've learned that it's not about depriving ourselves or going to extremes. It's about making smart choices that help our bodies be their best.
Yeah, it's a journey, not a race.
Right.
Be patient with yourself, celebrate those little wins along the way, and enjoy the process of figuring out what works for you.
So to everyone listening, take what you've learned today and use it. Experiment, explore, and most importantly, listen to your body. You have the power to create a healthy lifestyle that works for you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.